The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Oh, yeah. Welcome, everybody. We are going to have ourselves a great time today. As Lively Libra said in the chat room, what a hell of a green screen effect we got going behind us. No, this is reality, folks. We are live coming to you from Berkeley, California, from our Berkeley Bungalow studios here. Going to have ourselves a great time. We got all sorts of folks in here with our brand new National Cannabis Radio polo shirts. Adam Handmade Designs, handmadeapparel.biz. Check those out. Also joining us here in the studio, of course, we've got Cannabis Carrie that's going to be handling our daily Cannabis Chronicle. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, guys. My mic on?
There we go. Yeah, there we
nice.
are. They're still dialing things in, but, we were driving all night to get here to Berkeley to cover the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup tomorrow. And usually Fridays, there's not a whole lot of news, but today, my God, you got like a deluge of cannabis news. What are we looking forward to for the news today?
Well, we're going to cover a bribery scandal coming right out of the state of California here. Also, another lawsuit that's brewing on the East Coast. You know, we've been slowly covering, unfortunately, those raids that happened last year in Montana. Now, as all those defendants are coming up, we're getting a lot of those sentences handed down. I'm going to tell you about two of them today. And also, even though we don't have the intro, yeah, we're on the road. We've got some stupid stoner story for you as well.
Stupid stoner stories for today. All right, we'll get to that right after this first break. Also want to let people know for the show today that we're just going to do just the first hour. We're all pretty worn out from the long drive that we had here to California. So we will give you the hour, but Toker Talk Radio, we're going to take it off. I hope you can forgive us for this. But Herb Thrasher will be in at 8 o'clock Pacific time. He's flying in, so he won't be as tired. And we'll bring you some great metal here live from Berkeley at 8 o'clock Pacific time. Also on today's show, it's Daily Toker Tunes, and when we get to the Daily Toker Tune today, it's Rockin' Friday. So we'll be bringing you some great Rockin' Friday music to get our blood pumping for this High Times Medical Cannabis Cup coming up Saturday and Sunday. We'll be bringing the live coverage all this weekend from the Craneway Events Pavilion in Richmond, California. So check that out. Also check out medcancup.com for more details, more information. And then also on today's show, we've got some great interviews to play for you. Last weekend, we were at the OGF Care Growers Cup, and we were able to interview a man named Justin James Bridges. And he was beaten by cops at Occupy Portland, and he's in a wheelchair now. They beat the man into a wheelchair, and the way he has recovered from it and the band that he's formed because of it, it's truly a compelling story. We'll bring that to you. Also, yesterday we brought you the coverage of Representative Jared Polis going after Michelle Leonhardt, the DEA administrator. We've got more coverage of that. This time, Representative Steve Cohen from Tennessee is going to be grilling Leonhardt along the same lines as Polis did. We'll bring you that on audio today. And at the end of the show, time for a little radical ranting. We are going to talk a little bit about, once again, this Oregon legalization initiatives, and the claim yesterday that we talked about that the Secretary of State may be paying more scrutiny to marijuana legalization than she is to other ballot measures that are out there. We'll talk about that theory and more here on the Russ Belville Show. So thanks for joining us. We'll be right back after these messages. Stick around.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
I'm back on the map, I'm the dome freestyling, and you know where it's at. Diesel cats, you better check it. On the microphone, I'm leaving carnage and wreckage. Yeah, I'm half stepping.
Hey, I'm Nico. I'm the cultivation editor here at High Times Magazine. I'm also the competition director for our medical cannabis cups. I'm pretty stoked to be going back to San Francisco for our 3rd annual Cannabis Cup. Pretty stoked because the competition is usually pretty stiff in the Bay Area. It's one of my favorite cities in the world, and it's got some of my favorite ganja. Actually, you know, in the Bay Area, there's actually a big variety of weed. I've seen some strains out there that I've never even heard of. One of the winners last year, Bay 11. So there's some really interesting breeding that goes on out in California. It's obviously the mecca of pot here in the United States, and to be quite honest, it's probably overtaking Amsterdam these days. So it's always interesting to see the variety. We'll be using our new scoring system for the 2nd time in San Francisco. We implemented that about 1.5 years ago in Denver to great success. We've been tweaking it ever since. Out in California, there's certainly no shortage of confidence. The growers out there have been at it for quite a few decades now. Those guys and gals out there take their weed seriously. A lot of respect to them because they come proper. So get ready, Cali. We're coming out there. Let's see what you got.
Hi, this is Jen Bernstein, Managing Editor of High Times Magazine, and I can't wait to see you guys at the Medical Cannabis Cup in San Francisco. Where else can you see the coolest pot, products, gadgets, latest in technology? There's so much to see and do. Make sure you leave yourself enough time to check out everything. So when you stop by on Saturday and Sunday to the expo, don't forget to come and check out our vendors. They have tons of cool products, raw papers, hats, vaporizing pens, grinder cards, bubble making hash bags, everything. So
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show. Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, ganja sacrament, consumer cannabis. The topic of marijuana is heating up the news, and the Russ Belville Show catches you up with today's latest headlines. Now, here's our senior news editor, Cannabis Carey, with the Daily Cannabis Chronicle.
The mayor of Cudahy, California, and 2 other city officials were charged with accepting $17,000 in bribes for supporting the opening of a medical marijuana dispensary in the city of about 23,800 people southeast of Los Angeles. After weeks of soliciting and discussing bribes, the 3 officials met in February with an FBI informant at the El Potero nightclub in Cudahy, where they accepted a $15,000 cash payment, according to a statement today from the U.S. Attorney's Office in L.A. One of the 3 accepted a separate $2,000 payment, according to the statement. The 3 charged are Mayor David Silva, 61 years old, City Council member Osvaldo Conde, who is 50 years old, and Angel Perales, who is 43 years old. She runs the City Code Enforcement Division and allegedly brokered the bribe payments. Now, each of them faces as long as 10 years in prison if convicted. The 3 are scheduled to make an initial appearance today in federal court in L.A. Their lawyers weren't identified. Now, pretty interesting story there, Russ. The mayor, I mean, that's goes all the way up there.
Yeah, this just once again shows how the drug war corrupts absolutely. You know, we get all these stories that come back from Mexico where they talk about, you know, all the officials being bought off, and it's as if, you know, nobody ever wants to discuss that it's happening here in America as well. Here we get the one story that is so, you know, huge that it finally has to bubble up to the surface. I mean, the mayor, the city council, I mean, that's pretty high level for this to be going on here. And again, it just illustrates the corrupting nature of prohibition. And this is not to say that there can't be bribes in legitimate industries. I mean, sure, Walmarts or alcohol industries or tobacco producers, anybody could be found to be bribing city officials. But the situation with medical marijuana is just more ripe for that because there are fewer avenues of access for the business people and for the producers and for the consumers of marijuana. When you restrict the access like this, of course, it raises the profits, raises the risks, and it makes it so that bribing an official is more something you would factor into the cost of doing business than if you're opening, a t-shirt shop or a restaurant or something like that. Again, it's not that there's not corruption and bribes going on with other industries as well, but the more legal and more regulated we can make the medical marijuana industry, the less we're going to hear stories like this.
And we've been talking about this story a lot as well, but now there's a new lawsuit involved in this. 9 months ago, Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly in New York City issued a memorandum directing police officers not to make misdemeanor arrests for possession of small quantities of marijuana that were discovered as a result of an officer ordering someone to empty his pockets during what we talk about a lot, the stop and frisk encounters. But according to a civil lawsuit filed Friday by the Legal Aid Society, police officers have continued to unlawfully charge New Yorkers with crimes rather than with non-criminal violations for low-level marijuana possession. Now, it's a 28-page lawsuit that was filed today in the state Supreme Court in Manhattan against the city and the police department. It seeks a court order that declares the practice illegal and bars officers from violating the state's marijuana laws. Legal aid lawyers brought the suit on behalf of 5 New Yorkers who legal aid said were victims of the gotcha police tactics. The 5 men, all arrested since mid-April, 4 in Brooklyn and 1 in Staten Island, were charged with misdemeanor possession after small amounts of marijuana discovered on them during a police encounter. In each case, the marijuana became visible only after officers searched or asked them to empty their pockets, according to the lawsuit. Now, the 5 individuals are New Yorkers who are essentially victimized by these practices. According to their lawyer, the lawsuit is aimed at stopping this practice, which is harming thousands of New Yorkers a year and clogging up the court systems there. I wanted to say one plaintiff, Juan Gomez Garcia, said he was waiting for a food order outside a Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant in the Bronx on May 16th when an officer approached him and began to question him and ask him if he had any drugs on him. Mr. Garcia, who is 27 years old, said that after he finally admitted to the officer that he had a little marijuana in his pocket, the officer reached inside his pocket and removed a plastic bag containing that small amount of the drug. He was arrested and charged with open to public view possession for having marijuana in his right hand, according to that ticket. He spent about 12 hours in a jail cell and was let go after he pled guilty to a disorderly conduct violation, according to that lawsuit. So.
One thing you notice in the story, of course, Mr. Garcia, right?
Right.
Mr. Garcia. You got a lot of Mr. Garcias, a lot of Mr. Washingtons, right? Not a whole lot of Mr. Wentworths. You never get a Wentworth, never get a Tad or a Biff. Or a Chaz. It's always, Juan or Leroy or somebody that's getting busted for this. And I'm kind of making light of this, but really the racist nature of this cannot be ignored. You just can't ignore the fact that Latinos are 4 times more likely and blacks are 7 times more likely to suffer from this whole stop and frisk situation in New York than white folks are. If you're a white girl smoking outside in Soho, nobody's going to bother you. But if you're a black kid smoking outside in Harlem, it's going to be a problem. And this is what the war on drugs really comes down to. Michelle Alexander says it best. It's Jim Crow by another name. It's we can't, it's no longer acceptable to discriminate against people for the color of their skin, so we'll find this other way of discriminating against them. We'll have this law that's not enforced evenly. It's not enforced in the white suburbs. It's enforced in the black neighborhoods. It's enforced in the Latino barrios, man. This is what this is all about. I'll tell you what, though. We could end this whole stop and frisk thing. We could end it in one generation. One simple thing: public education on what our constitutional rights are. Most of these kids, most of these young men that are wrapped up in this, they don't know they can say no to a cop telling them to pull whatever's in their pocket. Cop's got a gun, right? You're on the street, cop's got a gun. He says, take stuff out of your pocket. the tendency is going to want to be to obey, especially if you're a minority youth in these troubled inner cities where, the wrong move, the wrong look can get you beaten, can get you shot by the cops. So it's just madness, and we've got to end this. And again, the marijuana is just a symptom of this. The prohibition of marijuana is just a tool that's being used for a larger purpose. Keep that in mind.
This is also an ongoing story. About a little over a year ago in March of last year, in a coordinated effort between state and federal authorities, there was a crackdown in Montana that cracked down on dispensaries there. And now, as the year has passed, a lot of those cases have been making their way through the court system. We've been monitoring those cases, and I have some new information on one. A Bozeman couple that operated a medical marijuana dispensary in Dillon, Big Sky and Bozeman were sentenced in federal court this week. Mark Sigler and Valerie Sigler were ordered to each forfeit over $450,000 by Judge Donald Malloy. Mark must also serve 6 months home arrest and 4 years of supervised release. Valerie must also serve 1 year of home arrest and 5 years supervised release. The couple had previously pleaded guilty to conspiracy to manufacture, distribute, and possess with intent to distribute marijuana. Now that, of course, in that late 2010, when the DEA said that trafficking marijuana is in violation of federal law, and those U.S. attorneys came out, part of the investigation, the agents busted all of their dispensaries. And then again on February 19th, 2011, a DEA agent reportedly observed marijuana packaged for distribution at one of their patient care facilities in Dillon. 3 days later, an agent reportedly observed numerous individuals coming and going from the Big Sky patient care facility in Bozeman. Now, based on his training and experience, he says the agent said he knew such a pattern of people visiting a place for short periods of time was consistent with drug trafficking activity. Now, it was in March that we said the undercover DEA agents went to the Big Sky patient care in Big Sky, saw the marijuana packaged, and went ahead and bought some, and that's how this all came out. At the end, they found approximately 234 marijuana plants that were under cultivation. They seized all their bank accounts and, of course, all their office equipment, and on and on and on in those raids.
Wow. Well, let's see. We got people that were operating under a medical marijuana law, patients that were registered under a medical marijuana law, going to the people that were providing medicine under a medical marijuana law, visiting for short periods of time to receive marijuana. Gee, you didn't need Scooby-Doo to solve this mystery, did you? Oh, my goodness, there's marijuana going on there. Yeah. Of course, that's what the whole law was about. Defining this as a crime is just the most absurd thing. And even when we're talking about non-medical use, just the personal use of marijuana, here we wanted to describe as a crime someone growing a plant that doesn't kill someone and processing it in such a way that another person who willingly wants that product will use it in a way that also won't harm them. It's just frustrating. I was watching Paul Chabot the other day on one of Leap's videos, and he was saying something to the effect of, well, just because we can't, ever eliminate rape doesn't mean that we don't stop going after rapists. Yeah, but see, the difference is in a rape, there's a victim who will complain about the rape and want some justice, right? When John and I want to exchange weed, or me and Brian want to smoke a bowl, thanks, John. Neither one of us are engaged in anything that the other one is going to complain about unless it's shitty weed. So, this is the most frustrating part about this prohibition, is that the people that are involved with it do not feel like they're involved in a crime.
And I'm sorry we don't have the stupid stoner intro for this, but and I also feel sorry for this woman. This comes out of St. Augustine, Florida. The St. Augustine Police Department arrested a 30-year-old woman after she deposited 55 grams of marijuana along with her bank deposit on Tuesday. Police arrested, I'm not even going to say her name. Police arrested this woman at the Regions Bank on South Ponce de Leon Boulevard after she made a commercial deposit for her company, Dunkin' Donuts, that had a little something extra. Mixed in with that bank deposit box was 2 ounces of marijuana, according to the police. Now, when it was found, the weed was locked in a vault by the bank employees, and tellers told the woman her deposit slip would not be available until the next day. And then she asked them, did I leave anything else in that bag with the deposit? And the bank teller said, yes, there was an additional item in the bag. She said, could I have it back? And the teller said, no, you can't. So while she was inside talking to the bank managers, here come the red and blues. And they got there. They tested that green leafy substance that was in that bank deposit bag to make sure that it was, in fact, marijuana. We know how it ended up. It was she was arrested and taken to the St. Johns County Jail. She was charged with possession of marijuana and released on a $5,000 bond.
You know what happened? She got done with work. She had to go make the deposit, but on the way, she went to pick up her bag, and then to make sure that the bag wouldn't be seen, she put it in the bag with the money, and then went through the little drive-through and put the deposit in, and about 3.5 seconds later went, oh shit. Oh, what a sad story, man. What a terrible story there.
I'm sorry, you guys.
And the bank guys, I'm sorry, you can't pick it up, man. We done smoked it all. You can't have any of whatever that was you left. It's not here anymore. I don't know. We don't know what happened to it. I'm so sorry for your loss.
I'm sure she doesn't. I'm sure she's out of a job as well. So I'm sorry. Careful, everybody out there.
We're going to take ourselves a
Use
break.
your brains.
20 after the hour. Stick around. We'll be back with some Daily Toker tunes.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support Normal Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Marijuana's not going to re-legalize itself. You've got to do your part. Join the National Cannabis Coalition today at nationalcannabiscoalition.com. Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Rockin' Friday, featuring rock, metal, and the hard edge of alternative country. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, everybody. Herb Thrasher is in the air on his way here to the Bay Area. He's going to be bringing you a live Herb Thrasher Flower Hour tonight with some great rock tunes. I know last night he was at the Hawthorne Theater in Portland, Oregon, enjoying one of his favorite bands, 6 Feet Under. Follow them on Twitter, by the way, 6 Feet Official. Chris Barnes is a huge supporter of the network, huge supporter of our shows, and we want to show that support back out to him. So I know he's got the rock going. He's going to be ready to just really crank out the metal tonight. Also, before we get to that, I did want to point out our National Cannabis Radio postcards that we now have available. Postcard black and white on the side here so you can mail it out. You can put the name and the address on one side. Color on the other side with our blockhead logos, National Cannabis Radio, Russ Belville Show, Ganja John Show, Irie Island Hour, Herb Thrasher Flower Hour, and A Different View. Nice and easy to mail out. And I tell you what, we are going to mail these out to the first 5 people that tweet out NCR420. Tell your followers to follow at NCR420. And when we see that, we'll pick the first 5 we see, and we'll follow you back, get your address, and we'll mail you out one of these postcards. So you'll be our first winners. Thanks for doing that. All right, so we are going to get now to our Rockin' Friday tune. And like I said, we had Chris Barnes, 6 Feet Under. So I figured we would play some 6 Feet Under for you. And this is the hard edge of metal. This is the real hardcore stuff. And it's a cover of a tune that I used to play in bar bands all the time. This is 6 Feet Under with the cover of Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak. Take it away, Chris Barnes and 6 Feet Under. Chris Barnes, 6 Feet Under. Follow him on 6 Feet Official on Twitter. Be right back with some more Cannabis Community Chat and an interview from the OGF Cup. Stick around. It's the Russ Belville Show.
Look, when I was a kid, I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
Remember, Mr. President, you once were just one bust away from being Barry the drug criminal.
Life ain't a box of chocolates gum. That's why people smoke weed and take bumps and drink way too damn much and get drunk and do it all over again first of the month.
The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
Welcome back, everybody, and we're going to bring you some recorded audio that we took last weekend at the Oregon Green Free Care Growers Cup. The band that was playing there was I forget the name of the band off the top of my head, but we mentioned it in the interview, so you'll catch it for sure. Patchwork Family. Now I remember. Patchwork Family. Thank you, Kaliko. Patchwork Family is the name of the band, and we were enjoying the band. The fellow who seemed to be the leader and singing and playing the guitar also was in a wheelchair, and playing very well, but in a wheelchair. And during break, we got a chance to sit with him, smoke a J, and talk about his situation. And it's a really compelling conversation. I had to push record in the middle of it, asked his permission, of course, but to find out more about what this guy had been through. If you followed the news last year, toward the end of the year, of course, you know about the whole Occupy Wall Street. And this, of course, spread all over the country. And one of the places where it really took root was in Portland, Oregon, with the Occupy Portland thing. And I went down. Carrie was down there a couple times as well. So, Carrie, you got to talk to Justin as well.
I did. His story was fascinating to me. He's a young man. He's only 29 years old. And I asked him, because he's still very passionate about the Occupy movement, and he is very passionate about his displeasure of Obama and the current administration's policies. So I asked him as a voter, what should the average voter do, coming up to this important presidential election? And he started saying a few things about dissolving the federal government or something, very intelligent things. And just jokingly, I said to him, talk like that could get you shot in another country. And without missing a beat, he said to me, it can get you put in a wheelchair in this one.
Yeah.
And so amazing. And he's an amazing person. I hope that he does well and continues to improve and go forward with that lawsuit.
Right. So, yes, listen to this story. This is Justin James Bridges from last weekend's Oregon Green Free Care Growers Cup in Portland, Oregon at the American Legion Hall, telling the story of how he was beaten into a wheelchair by police at Occupy Portland. So we're speaking again with Justin James Bridges. He was in the Occupy Portland movement and was taken down by cops, dragged away from his friends, and beaten into a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So this is just shocking just to be sitting here, and we're here at the Oregon Green Free Care Growers Cup, and it was just shocking to hear this. Because, what do you say about something like that? I mean, I guess obviously you have to sue. Obviously you have to take him to court. So What's happening on that front?
I have an amazing lawyer, Thomas Friedman, and he's going to be, he's a civil rights lawyer, and he's helping me out. So I've already filed my tort claim notice, and we're definitely going to start getting the word out there because the cops I'm not an isolated incident.
No.
Unfortunately. I mean, on May Day, they attacked, there's a woman that they attacked, and I'm not even going to go into detail what they did to her. And there's multiple people that just attacked and brutally beaten for no reason. We're doing everything. They pull people off of the sidewalks and attack them.
I had gone out to a couple of the marches during the October and November parts of Occupy, and everybody I was around seemed to be very relaxed, seemed to be easygoing and willing to respond when if the police were saying, "Hey, let's get off of here." Nobody was trying to. That I saw was using much intimidation, but then the other side, other people say, "Oh no, there's anarchists in there trying to fight with the cops and pushing their horses and whatever." What did you see with your time at Occupy?
Man, in my time at Occupy, what I saw, the only problems that started arising were like they try to blame the reasons that they listed for kicking us out. They try to say that it was unsanitary, yet the food inspector came through, and it turns out our kitchen was one of the cleanest kitchens in Portland.
Oh, I know. It's like we have this. They probably have it on local news everywhere, but they have the dirty dining.
Right.
You know, they
exactly.
go out. Oh, they scored a 74. They didn't want. They put chicken near beef. You know, whatever the hell it was.
Right.
But you guys, I mean, yeah, I went through the camps too, and I wasn't. You know, it was like, nope. I was fine with it. I didn't see any problems.
Exactly. And then they try to say drug use and drug overdose. Well, yeah, there's drug overdoses in this town every day. Sorry to bring out your dirty laundry, Portland.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got to face it. It happens here.
Well, it's kind of like the point that people without homes make. I don't like to say homeless people. People
Right.
without homes.
The houseless community.
The houseless community. There we go. Make when we have the Portland the Rose Festival parade and all that, and the people, you know, the suburbanites come down and they use duct tape to tape off these parts of the streets. They get a primo view of where the big old float's going to come by,
Right.
or, you know, covered with toilet paper or whatever. And the houseless community makes the point of, oh, wait, it's cool for them to come out and camp.
Exactly.
You know, but we can't. What the hell?
Look at Cameron Winton, former mayoral candidate for Portland. He is on a hunger strike right now. And he's down at City Hall on a hunger strike. And I think he's over, I know it's been well over a week. And so he's down there and he's been sleeping down there, not eating.
Yeah.
And just staying down there.
It's you know, I was talking to Justin, you know, earlier as we were in here in an American Legion Hall smoking a joint. Welcome to Oregon.
Yeah.
And you're here with the Oregon Green Free Care Growers Cup 2012. I'm Radical Russ Belville with the whole RoLLaJaY Studios crew with your live coverage of the Cup 2012. We had the winners were announced earlier. We'll get the list of them and post them up here as soon as we can. But we're sitting here with Justin James Bridges, a local musician with Patchwork Family Band, patchworkfamilyband.com, and also a station manager. Tell us about Pot Radio thing.
Yeah, man. I own Portland, Oregon Tunes and More Radio. We're a company from Local Live Media LLC, based out of Houston, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And we broadcast to 87 countries, and our company gets 10 to 100,000 hits a day. Just spread our word throughout. We got a lot of listeners in Europe and in Australia. And we play a lot of underground music from all over, and we have a show called Mic Check that we do every Friday. We got a little. I'm gonna have to get me some of those medibles, man.
No doubt. Yes, it's really nice when the cupcakes they're not medicated. Boo. Boo.
But they're still delicious.
They're probably very delicious.
That's so. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. It's been a really wild ride. But I guess the silver lining is I do have Patchwork Family now. Like our band formed that day that I got put in the hospital.
Oh yeah. That was the interesting story here. Is how this band gets together. These with is. Well, you go ahead and tell it.
Well, the day that I went down, when my back gave out and I hit the ground from them pushing, I landed in between Jane Doe 18 and Justin 165 from Patchwork Family. And that was the first time we had ever met. And when the cops grabbed my ankles and pulled me away, they pulled me out of Jane Doe 18's hand.
Wow.
And they came and found me the next day in the hospital.
So you never met, never seen each other before.
Never met,
and
never
then,
seen each
and then
other.
after this incident, she tracked you down.
Right, and they find out where I was, and they came, and they wanted to make sure I was okay because they thought that the cops were going to kill me.
And I mean, there was no provocation on your part, no justification for what they did.
I told them that I love them, and I'm really disappointed in their actions.
That's very sweet of you. Wow, this is an amazing story.
Yeah, and they proceeded to they came and found me in the hospital, and my house that I was living in at the time had a really giant narrow staircase, and there was no way I could get up the stairs,
right?
You know,
right,
and so they offered me a place to stay.
Wow.
And they took me into their house. It was before we knew that they didn't really know who I was. They didn't know we played music, but they just knew that I needed help, and so they took me into the house.
Wow.
And they took a bunch of occupiers in and helped out a bunch of people. And while we were there, as I was getting better, I couldn't use my arm or anything. And then on Christmas Eve, I started being able to move my thumb again. And so I started playing guitar a little bit. And we all started talking, and it was like, we all play music and we all play all these different instruments, and it's like, well, why don't we start a band and start playing? And we're like a patchwork of music. We came together. A lot of people had patchworks in the camps and everything, and we just kind of came together and
Patchwork family
started jamming, and brought in some good friends of mine, and our new drummer Kenny that you saw today was just amazing.
Oh yeah, he's great.
He's been with us for just about a week and a half now.
Wow, he's doing great.
We going on tour. We started in Seattle yesterday, and we're going all the way down to San Francisco.
Hey, and people can get all these dates and which city, which time on the website, of course.
Right, correct.
PatchworkFamilyBand.com, so make sure you check that out.
We're also on ReverbNation.com, ReverbNation.com/PatchworkFamily. Also, Facebook.com/PatchworkFamilyBand.
All right. Well, Justin, I want to thank you for sitting in with us and taking some time. I know it's hot in here. We'll give you a chance to cool off and maybe get one of them cupcakes.
Definitely, brother.
All right, my man. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. You have a great
Justin
day.
Bridges, Patchwork Family Band. PatchworkFamilyBand.com is the website. I'm Radical Russ here at the OGF Care Growers Cup 2012. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. We'll return you to music and perhaps get us another interview shortly, so stick around. Watch the Twitter feed, NCR420. I'll give you highlights and notes of what's coming up just as soon as I know. So stick around and enjoy the day.
And that advice applies for this weekend as well. Follow us at NCR420 to get the latest breaking updates on when we'll be interviewing people. We've got all sorts of great new technology that we are bringing for you this weekend, including this little guy that records high-def video and stereo audio and plugs in right there with a USB. So we'll have all sorts of really cool stuff to show you. So follow at NCR420 to get the updates on that. Plus, Cannabis Carry, Ganja John, Wiz Khalico, Radical Russ, Brian the Red, Ivor Redhead, Herb Thrasher. Follow all them too, and you'll find out what they are up to. We'll also be tweeting all sorts of pictures and fun stuff all this weekend long, noon to 10, Saturday and Sunday, High Times Medical Cannabis Cup. Stick around. We've got Representative Steve Cohen next, grilling the DEA.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
As High Times Senior Cultivation Editor, I'm often called into the field and asked to sample or even identify exotic strains of marijuana in their natural habitat. Now, for the first time, I've compiled more than 120 of my favorite strains into this single field guide designed to fit into your pocket as you travel the world in search of your favorite plant. From a friend's closet grow room to the wilds of Northern California, this single guide covers all of today's best-known strains, plus heirlooms and throwbacks, including High Times quality photos and information on each variety's genetic heritage and growing characteristics, plus my personal notes on aroma, flavor, and potency. So this is Danny Danko, author of the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains, wishing you good times and great ganja.
The official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains is available at hightimes.com and finer bookstores.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Marijuana is an addictive drug which produces in its users insanity, criminality, and death. Marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind. If the hideous monster Frankenstein came face-to-face with the monster of marijuana, he dropped dead from fright.
You know, it's not easy countering 7 decades of propaganda in a 2-hour show, but let's try. It's time for the Russ Belville Show's Reefer Madness Debunked.
Hey, it's a whole lot easier debunking this reefer madness when you have U.S. congressmen helping you out. I know you were watching yesterday's show, and you got to enjoyed it as much as we did. The video of Representative Jared Polis from Colorado just grilling DEA Administrator Michelle Leonhardt, trying to just get her to admit that marijuana is less dangerous than heroin. It's less dangerous than these other drugs. So, and no matter how he phrased the question, no matter how he tried to get her to answer it, she just stuck to the talking points that all drugs are bad, no matter what you do, drugs are bad, okay, you know, nothing.
Drugs are bad.
Yes, we know.
You shouldn't do drugs.
It's the federal government's position.
If you do them,
has
you're
been
bad.
for years.
Because
no
drugs are
what
bad.
You say, no matter what the science says, drugs are bad. Okay, Mr. Mackey just might as well be our drug czar. Well, lost in the shuffle about this, with Representative Polis given such a fantastic grilling, is the fact that Representative Steve Cohen was actually on before Polis and grilled her with a lot of the same questions. Now, Cohen, you've heard him in a lot of our liners that we play, is the one who famously was grilling the FBI director, Mueller, I believe it was at the time, where he's grilling him on the gateway theory. He says, gateway theory doesn't work. That's the reality. You know, before he had pot, he probably had bourbon. Before bourbon, probably had beer. Before beer, probably had milk, right? The gateway theory doesn't work. Well, Representative Cohen has been doing a great job exposing these drug war hypocrisies, drug war lies, and he did it once again with Michelle Leonhardt. So I'm going to play you that audio here. Representative Steve Cohen, Democrat from Tennessee, against Michelle Leonhardt on the dangers of medicinal marijuana. Let's get right to that video.
Mr. Cohen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it Leonhardt?
It's Lenhart.
Lenhart.
Think of the O being silent.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lenhart. What's your budget?
Well, currently,
approximately.
$2 million.
$2 million?
$2 billion.
Yeah.
Is
so about $2 billion.
Salary and expenses, and then we have additional with a fee account for our diversion program. So total budget is
it's over $2 billion. Do you get any confiscation money? Do you get any monies from confiscations?
I'm sorry?
Do you get any money from confiscations of properties?
You're talking about asset forfeiture.
Yes.
There is money that the Department of Justice gives us from the asset forfeiture.
How much money do you get from that?
I would have to...
do you have any idea at all?
If you give me a moment, I could...
I'd rather not take the time for you to research your files. You don't know. Maybe one of your staff members can give it to you.
I can...
Let me ask you this. Do you have what is your number one drug you're fighting? What's your priority?
Well, our priority right now is pharmaceutical drugs.
All right. And what's your second priority?
We don't prioritize specific drugs because the organizations that we are going after are polydrug.
So you're not going after the drugs for the harm they do. You're going after the drugs because of the effect it has on these organizations, and you're going after the organizations. Is that right?
We're going after the organizations that are having the most impact on our communities,
right.
Supplying the most drugs and the most violence.
Right. So you're going after the... So if the fact that meth or crack or heroin is causing the most damaged individuals, if that's not the number one choice of the crime syndicate, it's not your number one choice. Your number one choice is the crime syndicate, not the fact that heroin and meth and crack are destroying people's lives?
No, not correct. The organizations now have their polydrug. So for instance, the Colombian cartels, which are a priority,
right? They have all those drugs, right?
Are the primary source for methamphetamine, cocaine, and a good amount of the heroin on the streets.
Right.
They're a priority.
So that's your number one priority, is going after that cartel.
Our number one priority is going after those that most impact the United States.
And do most of those cartels emphasize, what are the drugs they emphasize in their arsenal?
The Mexican cartels, polydrug, it's cocaine, meth, heroin, marijuana.
Right. Marijuana is fourth. Would you agree that marijuana causes less harm to individuals than meth, crack, cocaine, and heroin?
As a former police officer, as a 32-year DEA agent, I can tell you that I think marijuana is an insidious drug.
That's not the question I asked you, ma'am. Does it cause less damage to the American society and to individuals than meth, crack, cocaine, and heroin? Does it make people have to kill to get their fix?
I can tell you that more teens enter treatment.
Can you answer my question? Answer my question, please.
I'm trying to. It causes harm because it's young people that are using it. If you're talking about the
it's
violence,
not just young people, but you're trying to answer the question like I'm Jeff Sessions. I'm not Senator Sessions. I'm asking you a question. Does meth, does crack, heroin cause more damage to society and does meth and heroin cause more deaths than marijuana?
all drug trafficking causes deaths. I don't have a breakdown of how many
aspirin. Does aspirin cause deaths?
I'm talking about the illegal drugs. I don't have a breakdown for you of how many deaths are caused by cocaine and how many are.
Let me ask you this: have you ever seen a person who had cancer and used marijuana to help them eat or to alleviate their condition of someone suffering from terminal cancer?
No, I have not.
And if you had, and I have, and seen that it helps them with their appetite and makes them smile, would you agree that it has some benefit to society for somebody who's dying, maybe a Navy SEAL who spent his life working and defending this country and is emaciated to 120 pounds, and that marijuana is the only thing that makes him eat and makes him smile, according to his 80-year-old mother? Is there not an efficacious situation there?
I think that's between him and his doctor.
Well, if it's between him and his doctor, why does the DEA take a position that medical marijuana is wrong, which you've taken? You've taken the position it's not between him and his doctor. You have a publication, which on page 6 of your publication in 2011 has the most insane and banal paragraph. The legalization movement is not simply a harmless academic exercise. The moral danger of thinking that marijuana is...
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentlewoman from California, Ms. Chu.
Now that's how you question a DEA administrator, and it's only a shame that the committee is controlled by Republicans, and that they're going to be very strict on the time limits there. That Representative Cohen didn't get to go further into that line of questioning, because you could tell just the seething anger that he was withholding. Obviously, someone that's a dear constituent, perhaps of his, a former Navy SEAL down to 120 pounds, benefiting from the medicinal use of marijuana, and you can tell that Lenhart here. And by the way, that was a nice pic that we've got on our Instagram here of me realizing that Michelle Lenhart's name is pronounced Lenhart. It's Lenhart, as if the O is silent, like her opinion on whether marijuana is worse than meth. So at least we got some consistency there. Hey, folks, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have a little bit of time for Radical Ranting and talking about what's coming up here at the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup, right here, just about 15 minutes away at the Harbor Pavilion, Craneway Pavilion, out on Harbor Avenue in Richmond, California. Gonna be a good time. We're hanging out with good friends too. Stone Kidney, RoLLaJaY's coming out. We'll meet a lot of good folks, and perhaps some backstage stuff. Herb Thrasher's up at 8 o'clock, so stick around. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show. Be right back.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers, because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's it's simply business.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times Magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
Sir, do you think there will or should come a time for us to discuss the possibility of legalization, regulation, and control of all drugs, thereby doing away with the violent criminal market as well as a major source of funding for international terrorism? Thank you so much for your time, Mr. President.
Well, I think this is an entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Name the time and place, Mr. President. Radical Russ has been prepping for this debate full-time since 2005. The Russ Belville Show.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore! You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth!
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
All right, folks, welcome back. We're live coming to you from Berkeley, California, as we're getting ready for the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup 2012, third annual. So this is our third time there, too, and we're really looking forward to it. We're going to be bringing you live coverage from noon till 10 at ncr420.com. Follow us at ncr420, and we'll give you all the updates. We got plenty of video and interviews and vendors and glass and just all sorts of cool stuff coming up, and just you're going to have a great time, so check it out. But before we get to that, I had a little time for ranting, and last night, as I was getting ready to leave, I was mulling over yesterday's show, and maybe I briefly brought this up on hour 2 yesterday, but I thought I'd bring it up again in the rant, and I don't bring this up to be vindictive or mean. I bring this up because, damn it, I want legalization to pass. I want the chance to vote on legalization in my state, right? Call me selfish. I don't want to be a criminal anymore, all right? And I want that chance. So I always want to support everyone that's trying to get this done, but I also feel that I have to take a look at this with a critical eye sometimes and apply some analysis to this, whether it hurts us or helps us. You can decide that for yourself. But I interviewed Robert Wolf yesterday, who's behind that constitutional amendment here in Oregon to legalize marijuana, and he kept pointing out that the Secretary of State, has disqualified a historic number of, it's a historic low. We're at a historic low for signature validity here with this constitutional amendment, and the implication, is kind of that, there's more scrutiny being paid to the marijuana issues, or that not his words. He was more along the lines of we should be going to every effort to include more signatures if that was the person's, if it's some technical thing like they just moved from one place to another and didn't update something, that their signature should still count. And I completely agree with that. But the numbers that were turned in for the constitutional amendment had a turn in validity. Now, I differentiate this. The Secretary of State's office will cite the validity of the signatures that were accepted for review. I count how many were turned in, because that's the number they always tout when they turn them in. It's like, hey, we turned in this many. So, all right, that's the number you want to brag about. Let's talk about how many of those that you turned in were really any good. And both of the statutory and the constitutional amendment both came in around 52%. Octa's was like 51.73. OMPI is 52.1 something, but it's close enough to say 52% for both of them, right? And again, Robert Wolf kept pointing out, these are historic lows. These are historic lows. Never seen anything low. We expect something like 65%, something around 2/3. 65, 66% was what expected. And if that was the, as has happened in the past, why wouldn't that be what we get? If we'd gotten that this time, we'd be qualified and so on. And then I brought up, the Measure 74 qualified for the ballot 2 years ago. Is it the case that there were two initiatives that were going against each other that made it, more difficult for both to qualify? And that's a possibility that was thought of a couple of times. But the thing that gets to me in this issue here is that there are other initiatives to take a look at. In the case of Oregon, one is qualified called Protect Our Homes. It's an initiative petition that's I-5. It's going to be on the ballot in November. It's qualified already. Now, it's a constitutional amendment, so it also needs the 116,000 some odd signatures to qualify. And it tackles the so important issue that it had to be put in the Constitution. We have to make sure this is in the bedrock foundation of the state of Oregon. Prohibiting the real estate transfer taxes, fees, and other assessments, except those operative on December 31st, 2009. So some obscure real estate tax transfer thing is going to go into our Constitution, and it made the ballot, right? On May 24th, a day before OCTA and OMPI turned in their initiative petitions, they turned in 163,278 signatures, needing to get 116,000, right? So 163,000 they turned in. And their validity rate on what they turned in, 76.7%. More than 3 out of 4 turned out valid on this one.